Welcome to Outdoor Gear Chat from Kendal Mountain Festival. I'm here with Cathy. Hi, Cathy.
Hi Wayne. Somehow we're on episode 84 already.
Wow,
We've been
bonkers.
talking to so many people over the weekend. It's been super, and we're actually just managed to grab two very special guests before they go and talk on stage at the Alpine Club Spirit of Discovery session. Welcome, Professor Rachel Carr and Sonam Rinzin.
Hi
Hi.
there.
Uh,
So, Professor Rachel and Sonam are going to be talking about the about climate change, I suppose, and working in remote, high altitude environments. And your work, especially, is looking at the impact of glacial lake collapse, isn't it, in a particular region of Bhutan? Would you like to describe what that sort of area of the Bhutan Himalaya is like, and the region and the conditions you're working in is like?
yeah, Bhutan Himalaya in general, I would say is very different to other parts, other mountains in like different parts of the world. For example, Alps, like in terms of the accessibility and like the terrain. Yeah, maybe the terrain could be similar, but in terms of the accessibility, it is highly challenging. Yeah, of course, it is beautiful, but because it is so remote and uh, it is hardly accessible by, it's not at all accessible by road, so we have to walk like days, if not even a week. So yeah, it is beautiful, but it is really challenging environment.
Yeah, so the place we're working in is an area called Lunana, and
Mm, mm,
depending on how quick you walk, it's probably 7, maybe more days from the nearest road. So it's a really long way to get in and out. That makes it very remote, challenging place to kind of work in. It means you have to be very prepared coming in. But I have to say it's an absolute honour to work in that area. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen, and people are also incredibly friendly and incredibly generous to us as well, always sort of welcoming us in. So we had a saying: if you're in Lunana and you go to someone's house, you'll get a cup of tea, some biscuits, and a cat. And the cat is not optional. You have to pet
Oh, I'm in. I'm in. When can I go? That just sounds like heaven.
that
Well, is the cat to take home with you, or how does that
Yeah.
work? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, we much as we'd like to smuggle them out, no,
Yeah.
the cat's for petting, so they'll get on your lap and come in for a cuddle. Yeah, they're incredibly soft, which I think shows like, people are obviously very kind to them. If anyone who's got a cat knows, if you ever once mean to a cat, it's never coming near anyone again. Whereas these cats are just absolutely butter soft on your knee.
So, well, aside from all the cat strokery
Yeah.
and cuddling, you're focusing your work on well, an incredibly important area of climate change, which is glacial lake collapse, which can be just unbelievably destructive. How would a glacial lake come to burst, and what can the impact on local communities be?
yeah, firstly, I to comment about like the glacial lakes outburst flood and its impact to the downstream community in Bhutan and wider Himalaya. So yeah, it is one of the like most disasters and or hazard that is affecting the lives of peoples elsewhere in the mountain communities across Himalayas. Now, when it comes to how glacial lakes outbursts occurs, we have to first understand the basic morphology of glacial lakes and how it is being formed. Firstly, about the formation, glacial lakes are formed on the depression, on the topographic constraint left by the retreating past glaciers. Now, they are dammed by loose and unconsolidated moraine, and it is highly vulnerable to erosion. So, beside that, this moraine also contain ice inside, and with the climate warming, atmospheric warming, so they are likely to melt at the accelerated rate, and it destabilize the moraine. So that's one way how glacial lake outburst flood occur. Another thing is when the glaciers were intact, it supports the surrounding slopes. But when it gets retreated, now this surrounding slopes, those mountain slopes are rendered supportless. So they become unstable and likely to produce mass movement and landslide. And sometimes this landslide enters into the lake, producing tsunamis or wave, and again it will devastate the moraine, damming the glacial lakes,
Wow.
and it will produce glacial lake outburst flood. But compounding with it is again with the climate change, the permafrost, the ice that occurs inside the grounds are melting, and it also that also makes the slopes more vulnerable to the landslide. And again, the climate change plays role here, like now, extreme weather events like extreme precipitation and extreme warming are becoming more frequent. Now, when there is extreme weather events, such weather events, there will be increased runoff into the glacial lakes, because glacial lakes are at the base where all the runoffs will accumulate, and again it will devastate the moraine and destabilize the moraine and produce glacial lake outburst flood. But glacial lake outburst flood itself is not dangerous. It becomes dangerous when it combined with the downstream settlement. Now, elsewhere in Himalaya, our only small bits of fertile lands are located along the river banks, along the floodplains, and we have settlements, who have structures, who have industries, cultural heritage. So when this exposure combined with the hazard from glacial lake outburst flood, so that's where it becomes more dangerous.
I
Wow.
think my GCSE geography is kicking in. There's a quasi-natural hazard. But it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. And I mean, the moraine just kind of makes me shiver, having crossed enough of them, and especially the ones that aren't ice covered, and they're just like wandering on. Well, instead of quicksand, it's quick rock, isn't it? You don't know what's going to disappear down, and they're just a world of dust and misery, really, and very dirty water when you have to filter it as well. Now you guys are spending a lot of time out in the field, aren't you, working in these areas, and they are, glacial dust, and you're at high altitude, so there's a lot of UV degradation. What are the other key challenges for the clothing and the footwear that you use?
Yeah, I mean, I think the wear and tear is phenomenal on it. So I remember we were duct taping up Sonam's boots on one of the trips, and duct taping together trousers, sewing them back up, and I bought a new pair of fairly robust sort of hiking shoes just before our second trip, and they now are literally full of holes. Like, I've ripped the sides off and stuff like that. So in terms of footwear, it's really heavy because, as you say, there's lots of rock and so on. So you end up just abrading your shoes very quickly. In terms of sort of clothes, you need everything for every single season in a day. So when we were there recently in October, you could be walking around in a thin fleece when the sun's up in the middle of the day. Come about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, sun goes down, you need at least one down jacket, you need kind of lined trousers, hat, gloves, everything. So I left my boots in the porch one night in my tent, and they were literally like knocking on wood when I got up the next morning. So you'd have to get up and put the boots out and put them in the sunshine to kind of thaw
Defrost them.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, and then the previous time we were there in May, June time, and it was incredibly wet. So really good sort of robust waterproofs. But we also found that you have to be prepared for them to get a bit wrecked. So mine got covered in horse and yak muck, and I had to have them professionally cleaned because they were smeared up to about my knees in like thick yak muck, which smelled disgusting and didn't come out. So
I know we can smell it, even though we can't smell it.
I'm not sure that's something that's in the manufacturer's testing room. Buckets of it just to slather on and check.
Yeah, stick a bit of yak on it and see what happens. Yeah. And just a quick one, how so it takes you that long to get there, and then how long is each trip, if you will, then? So it takes you 7 or 8 days to get there. And
Yeah, so normally our the sort of period we're actually doing the field work is about 2 weeks, and
Right.
we need that to, one, make it worthwhile fundamentally, and two, because everything that can go wrong will go wrong. So particularly the field season we had sort of May, June this year was very challenging because it was very wet. So the monsoon was quite early, and we were trying to wire up batteries and solar panels, which doesn't really mix so well with water. So we were doing that in kind of emergency shelters, and it was really challenging. So we normally have a couple of weeks out there to make all of the logistics, all the costs, etc., worth it, and to ensure that we can have a good crack at what we're doing, and maybe a day or two of contingency for if people are sick or can't go out for some reason. So.
Yeah, you were saying before we sort of started recording that one of the jobs that you do is you're placing sensors and to allow data collection. Once those are in place, and I assume they're not particularly light either, the sensors, but once those are in place, what happens next?
Yeah, so what we've been trying to do with these, so in our first field season, we put in kind of static sensors that just sit and log, but the obvious problem is you have to go back to get them back. We've been trying to design sensors that are sort of sufficiently lightweight that we can use them easily in the field. The heavy bits are normally the batteries, so we're constantly playing a game between how light is the battery, or how much of a pain is the battery to carry, versus how much capacity does it have. So when we left, they were all working. I think a few have since fallen over. So I think we might have to make some videos for local people to see if we can get someone to go and have a look at them. We're looking at hosting those data live on a project website, which we've got in a draft form. And we've got actually our colleagues from Bhutan who we're collaborating with. They're coming across in a couple of weeks. So we're going to spend a bit of that visit sitting down and developing that website, which will live stream the data. In terms of sort of moving ahead with the sensors, we're trying to sort of make them more robust, kind of commercially viable. So things like making sure we 3D print the cases to make sure they're properly sealed, rather than some sealant and duct tape, which is okay for a temporary measure, but we want something that's really robust. So it's really sort of using the data to kind of analyze changes in the things that Sonam was mentioning, so inputs to the lake, changes in the moraines, etc., but also further developing the sensors so that they're like really robust for us and for sort of future projects as well.
I think one of our mutual friends, Cathy, has used Tupperware boxes for doing stuff. Has found them fairly robust. For James from Open Tracking, if you're listening, that is you used. Yeah. We had some. He had some great successes with Tupperware boxes back in the day, and electrical tape as well. I don't know whether that's. But
you can never find the lid though to the Tupperware box.
No, you're right. Yeah, it's always the wrong size. Yeah. What? Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, duct tape and electrical tape are, our primary tools of the trade, I think.
What are your sensors collecting? Is it mostly temperature?
So we've got water level sensors that are collecting water level. We've also got some static sensors that do the water temperature as well. So we're looking to update the live streaming sensors so they can also do things like temperature.
Cool.
We've got seismometers that measure kind of shaking of the earth. So that can be for earthquakes, but as Sonam was saying, one of the ways you can get GLOFs is through inputs to the lake. So we can see things like avalanches, rockfalls, etc. in those seismic data. Wow. And importantly, it lets us kind of pinpoint when that happened. We've got time-lapse cameras, which again, we can use to look at kind of changes. So changes in the landscape for inputs to the lake or changes in the moraine dams themselves. And then the final thing we've got are these little things called LiveOx sensors. So they are laser rangefinders, basically. So they're the kind of technology that you have on your car to like stop you backing into bollards. So they ping out and then they come back and they scan a kind of picture of certain areas. So we've got those on the moraines to sort of detect landscape change, basically.
Loving it. I could geek it up for hours asking you questions here. Sorry, Rachel. Yeah. We better carry on with. Sorry.
To add on that, yeah. So basically, what we are trying to do is now as we mentioned earlier, like highly challenging environment, like Lunana or elsewhere in Himalaya. So relying on just one technology for this early warning system is very, very inefficient. So we need a lot of redundancy. For example, if one system fails, then it should be in such a way that other technology will warn the downstream population. While existing early warning system which largely is just based on water level sensor. So through our study, we are trying to improve the redundancy and moreover to improve the accuracy. But even if you have the best cutting edge technology, uh, the early warning system is incomplete without understanding the condition of downstream population. So in order to make our study approach more robust, we also do surveys. We also did surveys, public interviews, focus group, so that we also take into account their perspective, their behavior, their experience into our understanding of glacial lake outflow risks, and ultimately then it will go into improving the early warning system.
Yeah, as Wayne was saying, we could just this totally flicks on their Twitch. We could just talk about
absolutely.
it.
Loving it.
Yeah, and I'm really keen to go and have a nose on the website as well when it's up and running. But we'll put the link in the show notes when it's available and up and running for folk to have a look at. You're obviously able to get out to Bhutan to place all of your sensors, to cuddle the cats. I'm so sold on the cats. How is that expedition part of your research funded?
Yeah, so we've been kindly supported by a variety of different funders and kind of at different levels as well. So our kind of initial trip out, sort of the proof of concept, I guess, was supported by Mount Everest Foundation, hence why we're talking in this session. And we've been really grateful for their kind of ongoing support throughout the project. We've also had funding from the Royal Geographical Society, British Geomorphological Society. So some of those awards were to me, some of those were for Sonam. So Sonam's done a brilliant job of kind of raising, funds that are available to postgrads to support some of the physical sciences work, but also the social sciences work as well. We've had a little bit of money from the Quaternary Research Association, which supported my master's student coming out. And then because of that, based on that, we've managed to secure funding from the National and Environmental Research Council, or NERC, and that's government funding, that's government science funding. So that's kind of the big tranche of funding that supported these field trips and our kind of ongoing research. So we've really sort of put it together from lots of little bits, and then we've got this larger scale funding as well.
So I imagine managing all that is like managing a small business on the side as well, because funding applications are not an easy couple of hours. They're really in depth. But Sonam, you're from Bhutan yourself, and what is it like being at the forefront of this research project within your sort of home region? What does that mean to you?
Thank you. Yeah, you are true. Actually, you're right. I'm from Bhutan, and I'm very, very, I would say, the local guy. uh, I was actually brought up in typical Bhutanese village, so it is not really near to Himalayas like those glaciers and glacial lakes, but it's fair to say that my village is surrounded by snow-capped mountains, and yeah, brought up pretty much dependent on the entire ecosystem, which is created by glacier-fed river system. And now, being a local guy, as mentioned earlier, so I feel like it is my responsibility. It means a responsibility because I'm at the international platform, so I have access to advanced technology. I have access to international scientists, global platforms. So I feel like I have. It means like I have a responsibility to uh, do something that is useful to my community, just rather than passing my PhD. And another thing is, it is also a privilege being a local guy, uh, being a local person. In the sense, I can bridge the gap between the local and indigenous knowledge that I have in myself, and that I can uh, bring from that I can get from the local people. I obviously have an advantage side being myself a local people, so I can. So it is a privilege for me to bridge the gap between the the local and local knowledge with the cutting edge technology, and moreover to bring the local issue, the Himalayan issue, to the global dialogue of this climate related issues like climate justice and all, rather than just like defining from the outside. And ultimately, so it means uh, to ensure that those hazard maps, early warning system, are just not academic terminologies, but do something that is useful to the community back home, save their life, reduce their risks to and exposure to the hazard, and ultimately give them the best option, or best option for their life.
Yeah, well, and I just think your story is really inspiring. You know, you're from a small country, and here we are talking in about Glacial Lake Collapse in a mountain festival in the north of England. I think we're saying, Cathy, it's the power of education, isn't it? Or the educational system. It's amazing. It's brilliant. It really is.
It is,
Yeah.
and once again, we can go on talking forever, can't we,
Sorry,
Wayne? But we're kind
yeah.
of
Oh,
conscious of
absolutely.
everybody's time, and we're
Yeah,
so grateful. Professor Rachel Sonam, thank you so much
yeah.
for
Thank you.
joining us. It's been
Incredible.
absolutely fascinating.
Thank you.
You can, if you're listening and you want to find out more about expedition funding, you can go onto the Mount Everest Foundation website, and the link will be in the show notes. Once the website we've spoken about is available, we'll add that in too. In the meantime, if you are heading out to do some field work, we have everything you need at our shops in Ambleside and Llanberis and Capel Curig, and you can find our full range at climbers-shop.com. And you can also find a wealth of information about how to keep warm, what to eat, how to keep your water safe at our sister website, joebrownoutdooracademy.com.